Thank you very much. And I have just got off the plane. I actually did a 26-hour flight from New York in economy. Yeah, not only in economy, I've got the bulkhead in front of me, so my legs couldn't extend out. And I did the quick change in the toilet at the airport, and now I'm here with you. And I have done it for a very good reason. I wanted to be able to have the opportunity to talk about my favourite subject matter, which is data. How many of you are excited about how data is going to change and revolutionise our lives? Half. So I've got half of you to convince in the 15 minutes that I've got to talk. Data really is going to change the way we work, it's going to change the way that we do business, it's going to change the way that we play, and it's going to change the way that we think. And really what I wanted to do today was kind of go through with you some of the ways that I think data is going to revolutionise our lives. And as the subject matter of today is future-proof, I think the one thing, if you can take away one thing today, is that we all need to be very mindful of the role that data is going to play in our lives moving forward. So my job at ADMA is to bring the world of marketing and advertising together. And when we talk about data, and when you hear it in the press all the time, we always hear about tracking. We hear about cookies. We hear about Google going around collecting information about customers that they shouldn't be collecting and using it in a way that they shouldn't be using it. And that really is not what use of data is about. Data can be used in some really, really positive ways, and some of the case studies I'll talk to you about today just proves the power behind data. And also it can be used in a really positive way for marketing and advertising. Who's concerned about how their data is being used, how it's being collected and used? Yeah, again, around half. And part of that is the way it's being portrayed in the media. Even as Ian was saying in the previous presentation when he's talking about drones and they've got a negative perception and they're collecting information, etc., it is all being portrayed in a very negative way. But actually, the way that data can be used is positive. It is life-changing. It is going to change our world. So when I talk about data, what am I talking about? First of all, we're talking about personal information. That's the first thing. With personal information, this has been collected by companies and organisations and governments, etc., for years and years and years. It's information about you. It's your name, your age, where you live, how much you earn, etc., all of that information. And that's been used by companies, as I said, or governments for years to make sure that they can communicate with you in an effective way. But it can only go so far. You can just make assumptions about people in that regard. But when we get into the world of big data, truly big data, everything starts to change. Now, who knows about big data? Who understands big data? Very few. Okay. So big data is really data that's being created every day by the activities that we undertake. So when we go online, for example, companies or the websites that we go on can see what we're looking at, why we're looking at it, the type of products and services that we're interested in, and all that information can be collected up and it can now be matched back to you as an individual in certain circumstances. Mobile phone data. I am addicted to my mobile phone, literally addicted to it. In the middle of the night, I wake up and I kind of check my mobile phone, see what's going on, have a quick look at Instagram, etc. No, believe me, I do. You do as well, good. But every single time I go onto that mobile phone, every time, all of that information is being collected. We know exactly what I'm looking at, when I'm looking at it, in the middle of the night, if I'm buying something, etc., etc. So we're getting into the world of big data now. The other type of data is user-generated data, social media. How many of you are on Facebook? Well, I hope everyone puts their hand up here. Yeah, good. Okay. Instagram's another one. Twitter. In the 1 minute till I finish this sentence, there is going to be 1 million new posts on Facebook. There's going to be about 300,000 posts on Twitter. There's going to be 2 million emails sent in 1 minute. And all of that information is the data that I'm talking about. And it's all of that information that we can now, companies can now, governments can now collect and use, to change the world. So let's talk about changing the world. How is it going to change the world? The negative perception of how big data is being used, I mean, I really truly believe is unfortunate. If you look at some of the positive ways, first one, fighting crime. Over in LA, where I've just got back from, they obviously have a big crime problem over there. So they used big data. They took all of the data that was relating to past crimes, things that have been happening in the city, and they took it back for about 15 years. And they aggregated all of this data together to see where the crimes were happening, what type of people were committing those crimes, what type of crimes they were even, what the response rate was. And they started to build predictive models so that they could see, okay, what are these crimes and where are they happening, and can we preempt them? Can we see in advance if something's going to happen so that we can then deploy our police force into the right areas? So they did this, and they built a very, very successful predictive model and started to deploy their police forces into the areas and into the regions, and police officers that were able to deal with certain types of crimes. And they did that, and within 1 year, they reduced property-related crimes by 24%. And that's huge. And they also reduced burglary by about 17%. So that program is now, that algorithm that they've built using all of that data is now being rolled out over the US. So that's one way. Second way is healthcare. How many of you have heard of the dengue fever project that's been done by Google? Yeah, phenomenal. What they're saying is, whereas previously it's been the government's responsibility to see if they can predict outbreaks of disease, they now look to big data. They look at what people are searching for on the internet, because if you're getting a high concentration of people searching for certain symptoms, then you can say, okay, there's a probability there's going to be an outbreak of a disease in that area. Again, with social media, you know, people posting on social media that there's an outbreak or there's certain illnesses, that data can be tracked. And again, government agencies, whoever it may be, can step in very quickly to address diseases before there's a serious outbreak. So that's the type of way that data can be used. The third type would be emergency responses. So after the earthquake in Haiti, they actually used text messaging data. So they collected up all of the text messaging data so they could see where people were stuck, you know, where they were under buildings, so they could actually kind of deploy resources to those areas to get those people out. But not only that, from that data they could also tell where the biggest areas of devastation were, so that they could get resources there to help whole communities and rebuild communities as well. So they're the types of things that big data, that's how big data should be used, can be used, and how it's going to change our world. There are other ways it'll happen as well, and I do want to quickly talk about the marketing and advertising piece of it, because that's obviously my job, but I'm going to keep it small. It will be used for commercial purposes, but big data will be used for commercial purposes. It's in some instances to streamline, to create efficiencies, to bring prices down, rather than, you know, as it's being portrayed, to put prices up and start to rip consumers off. That's not what businesses are here to do. Obviously, if you're going to be ripped off by a company, you're going to go back there again? No, you're not. So it's in everyone's interest. We've got a rogue fly. It's in businesses' interest to make sure that they're using data in a productive way and an efficient way. So they will be used for that sort of purpose. Now, how many of you at the moment, when you go online and you search for something, you've gone on there, you decide you quite like a certain top, maybe from one of your favourite stores, say the Gap, and then the next time you go online, there it is again, you're being served advertisements about that exact thing that you have been searching for. How many of you have found that? How many of it, does it freak you out? Yes, you do. Well, the next part's really going to freak me out. I'm joking. I'm joking. So, look, that's kind of the first step of this, is yes, we can kind of track with cookies, see what you're looking at, and then next time you come online, great, it's served up to you, so hopefully you buy that product. And that's all very well, you've probably gone into the store and bought the product by that point, okay? So what if then organisations could actually start to put together and see, okay, this is what someone is looking at online, can I match that with their transactional data, so I can see that actually, even though they browsed for this product over here, I can actually see they've already gone and purchased it. So there's no point me serving up to them again. So what I'm going to do instead is make sure that I serve up the pants that match the shirt that you've already bought. Okay? So now we're starting to get into kind of a true way of using data to deliver a different customer experience. And all of that data is starting to be pulled together. It's not personal data at the moment. Quite clear about that. It's not about me, Jodie, it's just about an individual, okay? But if you think about it, we can now pull together transactional data. We can pull together viewing data. So what you're watching on Foxtel, for example, that can be pulled together. What you're buying, that can be pulled together. Where you're travelling to. So all of a sudden, we're very, very deeply into what's going on in your life and can respond to what's happening in your life and can make sure that what is served up to you is relevant products and services. So it is a little bit different. It is going to take a bit of time to get used to, and there's a big obligation on companies to make sure they do this right and they don't freak you out, as you've all kind of slightly put your hand up and said. There is a big responsibility there, but the opportunities for us are endless. And lastly, I just want to kind of go into very quickly what it could mean for us personally. I was very excited by the new email product that has come out. I don't know if any of you are using it yet. What this does is it actually goes into my email inbox, and it can look at all the emails that are coming in there. And if it picks up one that says, okay, travel, itinerary, some certain information, it will then map what I need to do in order to make that travel itinerary. So for example, I've got a flight and I'm going to fly out of Sydney at 12 o'clock midday. Well, it will work out, I probably need to be there 2 hours beforehand, right? I've got to check in, so that's fine, so that will work out for me. Then it will work out, right, okay, and you need to travel to the airport. And you are in Sydney, so how are you going to get there? You're going to get there on the train, probably, or by taxi. So I'm going to go by train, probably take me another half an hour to get there. It can then check the train, make sure that the train timetable is running on time. If it is running on time, perfect, an alert goes off and says, right, if you go, Jodie, time to go to the station so that you can get to the airport. If the trains aren't running on time, right, an alert's going to come out and say, right, you need to find another way to get there. That's revolutionising the way we live, and this is step one. So we are part of a data revolution at the moment, and I would say we're 1% in, if that. This is just literally going to, as people innovate, as they take off and they think about new ways to use data, all of these things are just going to become a daily norm for us. So I think my parting message, before I go home and go to sleep, is data is going to change our lives. We need to make sure that we embrace it rather than be scared by it. Data isn't really down to, as I said, it's not really down to a personal level. It's talking about individuals. And organisations are trying to make it so that it is helping create a great customer experience rather than, as some of you have indicated, actually kind of going a step further and being scary. So we need to embrace it, we need to understand it, we need to embrace it, and we need to let innovation take its course. Thank you very much.